Hello dears, welcome you all to a new session by literacturer.com. Today we are going to discuss about one of the excellent works in literary criticism in Greek tradition but was unknown for a long period of time. That is On the Sublime by Longinus. The authorship of this work is still undecided, and the name Longinus is just a conventional name, and it is only known for the authorship of this work, this treatise only. Anyway, this is a fantastic work which casts light on romantic elements of criticism. And before taking those elements into discussion, let's take a glance on the structure and the content of the work first. On the Sublime is a treatise on aesthetics and literary criticism written in an epistolary form addressed to Terentianus. According to Longinus, literature is not a mechanical craft, but it's a thing of spirit, imagination, of feeling, and of the gift of communication. By this, the great literature produces a quality, a permanent and universal quality which makes them extraordinary. And he says that these qualities have been embodied absolutely in the masterpieces of ancient Greece. Thus, he suggests a return to the quality and standard and spirit of classical Greek literature. In defining sublimity, the term he uses for assessment of the literary works, he says sublimity is a kind of elevation, a loftiness, a kind of excellence, and all that rises the style above ordinary. A work with sublime thoughts and expressions can change, can transform the readers into a special status of mind. And then he is going to discuss about the sources of sublimity, and just before he distinguishes between true sublime and false sublime. According to Longinus, the false sublime is characterized by triviality, timidity, and bombast of language. And the false sublime shall not display the true passion. At the same time, true sublime pleases all and always, presenting the truths, facts, and thoughts of universal validity. True sublime pleases all in a language uplifts the soul of readers. Talking about the sources of sublimity, he presents 5 prominent sources. The first one is grandeur of thought. Clarity and greatness of thought only can lead to the clarity of presentation, of expression. So, a great work should express always a great thought. Great thought comes from great source, which means those with mean ordinary thoughts cannot produce a great or admirable work, because admirable work is always based on an admirable and noble thought. So, the thought and its nobility is the first source of the sublimity of a great work. And the words full of sublimity surely comes from a mind full of majesty. Here, he suggests to capture some greatness of the great authors like Homer, Plato, and Demosthenes. Here, he clearly expresses his bias towards classicism. Intensity of emotions is the second source he presents. For producing a great literature, vehement and inspired passion is essential. Otherwise, a work cannot make an effect upon the reader. And he says this emotion expressed should be true and it should be put in the right place. He writes, I would confidently affirm that nothing makes so much for grandeur as true emotion in the right place. For it inspires the words as it were with a wild guess of mad enthusiasm and fills them with divine frenzy. But he doesn't go in detail on the second source of sublimity because he wanted to write a treatise on it. But that work is not available, either it wasn't written or it has been lost. The third source of sublimity he considers is the appropriate use of figures. The figures used in a literary work should be appropriate for the greatness of the work. And he suggests four things to be considered to make a figure appropriate. A figure should be used in right place, right occasion, and in the right manner with the right motive and purpose. And he lists most important figures in his opinion. They are exaggeration, which means rhetorical use of questions and answers. Then asyndeton, which is there is omission of conjunctions. And anaphora, repetition of words. Hypobaton, the fourth one, hypobaton, that is inversion of natural order. And the fifth one, periphrasis, it's a way of indirect speech. These five items are the most important figures he lists in his work under the third source of sublimity. He presents nobility of diction as the fourth source of sublimity because the selection and arrangement of proper words is very essential for producing sublimity in an artwork. According to him, diction is the first thing which creates an impression on the reader. So he gives more importance to this item. He says the words used should be a fountain of lofty thoughts because the lofty thoughts of the great work is to be expressed with the words, the medium of language. So the language used should be acted as a fountain of lofty thoughts. But the discussion on this fourth element is incomplete because 4 or 5 pages have been lost from this part. Dignity of composition is very important to Longinus for the sublimity of the work because the harmonious arrangement of words and expressions can appeal to the soul of the reader according to Longinus. And he says the harmonious arrangement or the rhythm produced by the right arrangement of words and expressions can make up the deficiencies of other elements also. So the fifth source of sublimity he consider is dignity of composition, which means the 4 elements we discussed earlier or he presented before the fifth one should be blended harmoniously. So which can contribute into the loftiness of or the sublimity of the work. And under this subtitle or under this point, he warns the authors of excessive conciseness and brevity. He says, excessive conciseness is not suitable for great works because excessive conciseness just marks the sublimity created by or can be created by the arrangement of words and composition. This treatise by Longinus called On the Sublime was first presented to the modern critics in 1554, and the theories and concepts included in this work influenced the romantic critics of 18th century. So, Professor R.A. Scott James called Longinus as the father of romantic criticism. He traces some qualities or romantic qualities from this work, like his intense support or his insistence on imagination, exaltation, intense emotion in others. And he tries to judge a work by the content or by the feeling or the theme expressed, not by its form. And he has opposed many views of classical critics on metaphors or diction and others. But some of the scholars are not ready to agree with Professor Scott James. For example, Professor Atkins says that he is a proponent of genuine classical criticism. This is the better way to describe Longinus and his work, his treatise on the sublime. Anyway, this is a fantastic work which casts light on the romantic elements of ancient period. So let's conclude telling that Longinus is the most modern of ancient Greek critics. Thank you for listening to this lecture, and let's meet again with another topic. Thank you.